How you going, people? I want to talk about a video I did, man. Let me tell you something. These little microfiber cloths, you don't want to be using sand dust and filing things or drilling anything with those. That freaking stuff sticks to that cloth and I can't get it all. It's a pain in the butt. But I digress. I was cleaning up my shop. I finally got my, you can see people have been complaining about how I've been dirty lately, so I cleaned up my shelves. Got some things hung up. So let me talk about this freaking, man, I remember this case back, I want to say in 85, 86, they briefed us on this case for domestic terrorists. So on Netflix right now, there's a show that's called The Wild Wild Country. And when I first started watching it, I thought it was a movie or something, and it turned out to be a documentary, and I was kind of like, oh crap, this is going to be, and then it just drew me in. After I watched the first episode, it started triggering about me remembering what happened. And back in the 80s, there was this, they called them a cult. It was a following of the, I don't remember his name, Osha, Rahashi, whatever, Wamba, whatever his name is. Some Indian name, dot, not feather. And he's from India, and he came here to the U.S. because they wanted to buy. And I really, it's only like 5 episodes, they're an hour a piece, maybe it's 6, because I started watching it at 3, and shit, at 10:30 I finally finished. But, so, back in the 80s, there was a case to where this town was poisoned by this cult. I remember hearing on the news, I didn't hear all the details, that these people went into the town, and in order to get people so they wouldn't vote, they sprayed salad bar. They had salmonella in a little spray bottle, and they went around and they sprayed all the salad bars in town, and they had like 500 cases of salmonella in this town. And this is a small town in Oregon, and where was it? Washoe County, I think, is where it's at in Oregon. And the name of the town is Antelope. So, if you're going to watch this series, you may not want me to spoil what happens, but, I mean, it's fact, so it's not going to change, but, man, I'm watching this show and I'm just like, are you freaking kidding me? I mean, it just escalated from peace, love, these great people meditating, having open sex, which, hey, I don't have a problem. I don't give a shit. People want to go to a nudist academy or have sex or, well, it ain't nobody's business, especially ain't government business. But this Oregon little Antelope town was a religious little area. When I say religious, I mean Christian, God religious. That means not other religions. So, and it was a small, the whole town of Antelope had like 50 people. So what happens is this girl who, man, the woman in charge of this is just, her name's Sheila in the movie that they do, these 6 series, and they show, it's all actual footage, it's all interviews of town people, it's all news reports, it's all about government getting involved and totally screwing these people over. I mean, look, I don't agree with this group that went in and poisoned the town to mess an election. I agree, they kind of messed up. And they did plan to kill a couple people, but they didn't actually kill anybody. And so I'm not condoning what they did, but I absolutely do not condone how the government handled it. The government went in and stomped on the Constitution and freedoms and totally railroaded this group of people. And they were following the law. And the lady in charge, Sheila, was the number 2. She was called the secretary of the head guru, Rahashi, Osha, whatever his name was. Osha was master or whatever. So this Osha dude is like, he believes in free, he thinks marriage restricts people's individuality. He wants more peace and love, and people should be open, and you don't need to get married. And it wasn't like he was having 15 wives. I mean, I'm assuming he's having sex with a lot of women, but he had a long beard, and he went around like this a lot. He had a very unique way when he held his hands. You know, if you hold your hand, you bow. There's some, when he did it, for some reason his elbows were closer, and he always looked so, just watching the video, he would come out and he was so reserved. And meanwhile, they're planning to kill the whole town. this went on for 4 years, 5 years. The government was after these people. And the woman in charge, this Sheila girl, an Indian girl, man, I don't know whether to hate her or love her. I mean, she was kind of vicious and mean and kind of attacked us. Hey, Moki, what are you doing? Did you hear Dad in here yelling about the big show? Are you going to come say hi to YouTubies? Hang on, my kitty came in. He was... Hello, Moki, kitty cat, what are you doing? Show him how the cult leader was holding their little hands. Ooh. Ooh. Dad's telling a story about a good movie. So, this girl, again, I don't know whether to hate her or love her because she was just so strong and so in your face and so protective of her people that she didn't give a crap about the government. I was like, dude, you go, girl. She was standing up and slamming it in the government's face every time you turned around. So, I mean, again, this show was 6 hours, the documentary, so I'm trying to give it to you in a 10-15 minute video. So this Indian dude needs a new place. Evidently, he has some taxes. He's not in India. There's some issues. So he sends out his secretary, Sheila, who basically is number 2, his lieutenant or whatever. He sends her out to find a new place. And she finds a bunch of acreage. Was it 100,000? It was a lot of acreage right outside this little town in Antelope, Oregon. And there was nothing in these hills. There was no water. There was nothing. And she decided to buy it because at first they started out not to make money like many things, like many religions. It's all about good and God. Then all of a sudden you figure out you can make money and then it turns into power and money and getting more money. Well, that's how they started. And so when they started this, you getting down? Are you getting down? You don't want to say hi to YouTubies anymore? Are you getting down because you're being a good little YouTubey kitty cat? All right, I get distracted. So it started out, they were in India and he wanted to move. He sent her out and she found this place in Antelope and she said, we'll buy it. So they bought it. Absolutely junk land. And this little town, people of 50, you know, when you get a small town of 50 in Oregon, hell, I thought I was in Texas or somewhere down south, the way these people were talking. When they interview them, they kind of come off a little bit, not real bad, I'm going to piss off the religious people, but they come across a little bit like, this is our town, we believe in God, and we don't want you outsiders in here. So they kind of come off a little, and at the end I don't blame them because it ended up being 10,000 people come to this little town of 50 and they just dominated. So, wait, hang on, let me walk you through the story. So she buys the land. Then all of a sudden she brings people, and the people from India, because in India there were people coming from Japan and from Australia and from the U.S. They had all kind of people going to this religion. It was about peace and sex and then they made a little video about it to where they were screaming and yelling, doing some crazy crap. To me, it was kind of a propaganda video, but I mean, I don't know. I wasn't there. And like most religions or most groups, you can have a whole group of people that are decent and good, and if a few people are bad, they can give the whole group a bad name, and especially if the few people in charge are bad, then they can really give the whole group a bad name. Kind of like I think the NRA is. I think the NRA started with good things and did a lot of things, but because the people up top want to make their $1 million salaries and have their nice big buildings, and they just want to live off people giving them money, they found a way to collect money and now they don't do their job. So that's how I think the leadership of this cult kind of went. It started out as a good idea of freedom, people can come there, everybody was loving, and then it turned into money. So, of course, this guy had like several Rolls Royces, I want to say 70. So they were bringing in a lot of money, kind of like the Catholic religion. They got their own city, their walls, they got people guarding them with guns, and they're telling other people we should have gun control and you shouldn't build walls. Hypocritical. Most religions, same thing, they're always hypocritical. My way or the highway, if you don't agree with us, you're bad, you're evil, you're going to hell, we're going to heaven, our God's better than your God. But I digress, I don't want to get in religion, I want to get in this movie. So, they start bringing in people and they start building. And dude, when I say building, I'm not talking about bringing in a mobile home. They They built an electrical power grid. They built homes. They were on their own power. They literally had their own city. Now, there's something in the Constitution, and I haven't looked up, maybe some lawyers out here are going to figure it out, can enlighten me on this. But if you can get 150 citizens to buy land and say, we want to start our own government and incorporate, supposedly you can start your own city. If that's true, and these people did it, and they did it good for 5 years, and that's what I got most about the movie, is like, dude, this is brilliant. If patriots and gun-loving good people got together that was tired of this crazy country liberal crap and bought enough land, they can incorporate, make their own city, get federal government, be part of the government, and actually grow and have a community where there's actual good rules for good people, and bad people like criminals and idiots don't get protection, and they don't get to sue, and they don't get to be burdens of society. So, I mean, they did a freaking fantastic job of setting up this city. And I mean, they didn't do it halfway. They spent billions and made this city in the middle of Oregon that was nothing, which is now a resort for children who are come from battered homes, because the government ended up running them out and selling them, which is, I think, it's just wrong. So there's one attorney in here that ends up being the attorney for them. Pretty nice guy, pretty low guy. I'm not a big attorney guy. This guy was a little, you know, a little too into all this, but he makes some good points. And talking to him, he defended and protected these guys and was on the side of right. And he wasn't involved in the poisoning and all that. There was only Sheila that kind of was running that. And Sheila became the lieutenant, and because she was second charge, she had power, much like our organizations. You have our president, and then usually the chief of staff or the House, you know, who's ever in charge of the White House, or the people around him have all the power and do things, and they don't tell him. And he thinks he's surrounded with good people doing good things, and then when he finds out, he looks like it's his fault. Well, that's what this Raha, I have to do it like him. He's a little skinny dude. So anyway, that's what he did. He kind of let her run everything. He kind of gave her direction, and she just ran with it, and she was like, hey, the ends justify the means. I'm going to get done what my leader told me to do. So they build this huge city, and it grows to 10,000. They're making money and everything. They've taken over that area. Well, this 50 group people don't like it. And they start kind of saying, hey, we don't want your class around here. They all wear red or pink. They all wear the same color clothes. And they were like, hey, we don't like it. And we don't like your free style, sex, and this, and no marriage. And you're against our Christian values. And so there was a clash. Well, that's okay. You can have a clash. But you don't have to bring down the government. And they did. They brought down the government. And the government tried dirty, sleazy tricks to get them. Now, unfortunately, when they started getting people sick and poisoning the town and planning on killing and poisoning the water source to affect an election, they kind of stepped over the line. I mean, they made their own boat there to where they gave the government to come in. But before that, they did everything by the books, and they were winning, and people didn't like it. And the government started changing the rules. The government came down on them hard, and that's when they got pushed in the corner. And that's when they started doing, you want to fight hard, you want to fight unfair, we're going to fight back unfair. And that's when they started the poisoning and putting out hits on people. So, they couldn't find any crime on these people. They couldn't find anything they were doing wrong. And the townspeople were like, you know what? We'll just take over the town of Antelope. Since they're the problem, they're calling in the government, they're trying to get us run out, we'll just get elected. So what did? They got elected to the city council. They took over the mayor. They changed the name of the town to this religion, Rahashi, whatever. I mean, it was just crazy, the steps that they took. It was all illegal, and then to watch the government come in and just lie and stomp on their rights and use some BS warrant. I mean, they end up getting a guy for freaking, he went to another city and got married for immigration so one of the women could stay or something. And so the only thing they had him on, these people built a freaking paradise in the middle of nowhere and brought in lots of money and lots of taxes. You know what? But they got him on immigration fraud because he got somebody to stay in. Because when the government wants you, they're going to get you. And this is a perfect video of how when the government wants you, it doesn't matter whether you're right, wrong, or you by the law. The government can bend the law, change the law, and they can get you. And that's what they did. I mean, they came on these guys with every way, and they won. The religion kept winning on every front. This woman, Sheila, kept winning and winning. Well, it turns out that Sheila at the end, the head guy started getting closer to another woman. That Sheila was kind of jealous because somebody else had his ear. She was bugging him, didn't know it. She found out. I mean, it just got complicated on the things that were done. And so she ended up just leaving. She goes, I'll leave. And when she left, it pissed off the dude in charge, so he went on TV out of bitterness. That's when I lost respect. When I saw him doing this all the time and keeping his mouth shut, I thought he was a pretty nice guy. As soon as the secretary left, after she was a loyal follower and built this whole city for him, he come out on the news like, she's a criminal, she should go to jail, she stole, she's evil. That was the opening for the federal government to come in. Before that, because they established their own city and they incorporated, they were the mayor, they were elected official, they had a city council, they had their own police force, they trained with guns, automatic weapons, they had protection in their city. Not that they wanted guns, because the townspeople were talking about killing them and running them out. And they were like, hey, we're going to get guns. And somebody from the towns blew up a hotel that they had bought. They started buying up the land and the houses in the Antelope, and people started moving out. So the townspeople that were there forever got pissed. Somebody blew up their hotel. When they blew up the hotel, they got guns. They didn't have guns before then. So they were forced. I mean, it's a very conflicting series because I'm on their side, and then I'm like, I'm on the townspeople's side, and then I'm kind of like, well, government's got to really do something, and then I'm back to on their side. It really takes you through a complex series. I thought they did a pretty nice job. I think they were a little slanted to the religion, and they were a little slanted to make the townspeople look a little religious, crazy people in their religion, and they were bigots and didn't like anybody. And I mean, I could see through that, but I think that's how Netflix kind of did it. I think it's a great series. They ended up getting the guy for an immigration. He left. They were running him out. They wanted him to leave. He ended up getting on a plane and leaving. And the government said, oh no, we have a warrant for him now. He can't leave. They chased him all over the United States, caught him in another country, took 3 weeks to ship him back to Oregon from planes, staying overnight, hotels, just really wearing him down. He was an old guy, 70, I guess, or something. And they wore his ass down, and then they got him back there, and his lawyer goes, look, we can win. They got no case, but you're going to have to go to trial, and you're going to have to be subjected to this. And he kept getting subjected to strip searches. They were humiliating. I mean, they really put all the force of the government illegally and totally beat this guy down, and he took a plea deal for 1 count of immigration fraud because he married somebody in Dallas and then moved back out here so she wouldn't get deported. He pled guilty, and the only punishment was he had to leave the country. I mean, to me, it was just outrageous the way the government spent millions of taxpayer money, put the full force investigation, search warrant, rushed the place, chased him, put him in jail, made a big spectacle, did press releases, and then took a plea deal of guilty, and the only punishment was to leave. The guy was leaving the freaking country. He got on a plane and was leaving, and the government went, oh no. Some dude, some U.S. attorney got up there and goes, well, that's not the way our laws work. He can leave, but we had already had an investigation. We had warrants. So you know what? We weren't just going to let him leave. We were going to bring him back here, spend millions of dollars, get our press releases that we caught him, and then let him sign an agreement that he's guilty, and then say your punishment is to leave. I mean, are you kidding me? It was the biggest farce of government power abuse, and it was absolutely crazy, and these people did everything right, and I would hope that patriots, gun-loving, whoever wants to stop our crazy federal government, watch this series and figure out the loopholes that they identified to start your own country and to incorporate in the United States and to keep the federal government out of your business. Man, they had their own crematory. Nobody knew when anybody died. They had their own government. They had their own... Oh, that's the other thing they went after them with. They said it was a religious government. And because of the separation of church and state, because they were religious and all the religious people were being picked and they were part of the religion, and they wore their religious colored clothing because everybody wore red, because they wore red on the council, that's what we're going to go after for, separation of church and state. When that fell through, then they went after the head dude for not talking, because his visa was to run and participate in religious organizations, and that's how he got his visa. And the government said, well, you haven't talked, because he went on some non-talking thing for 3 years. He never spoke in public. And so the government said, since you're not talking at your religious benefits, you just show up and do this, then we're going to say your visa's getting pulled. And they tried to kick him out on that. And he won. These people beat the government on every face, and even at the end, when they didn't beat it and pled guilty, their only punishment was to leave. I mean, it was just, and there was a lot of tragedy, a lot of good people got hurt. I liked it after I got into it. The first and second part, I was kind of like, man, I don't think I can watch this. But I was a little interested in the way the government, I remember getting briefed on domestic terrorists and how this one domestic cult, they did domestic terror and they went in and sprayed because they, as law enforcement, they were teaching us to be aware of these fanatics and don't underestimate them because they had their own lab, they built their own hospital. I mean, they built a freaking city and developed undeveloped land, had crops, were watering, made dams. I mean, they just, the place that they built was absolutely amazing. And man, the government just stomped on them. It was amazing. So if you want to watch it for the government things, go ahead. If you want to watch it for Moki, what are you doing, Moki? It's like I'm just hanging out, Dad. I'm watching some mousey going to come in his door and I'm going to pounce on it. Alright, we'll end that there on Wild Wild Country. Man, I had notes so I could follow through the main things, and I was taking notes through the whole thing, and my damn computer crashed on the last freaking episode and erased every bit of notes I had. I was like, are you kidding me? I was ready to throw that. I was about to do a video of me shooting my Dell computer. So I lost all my notes that because I took notes on each episode, and I was going to walk you through more coherently than just kind of trying to remember things. But if you want to watch it, I liked it. I enjoyed it. I didn't like the first episode because it was too slow and I thought it was going to be boring. But it was truly an education of what government is capable of when they want somebody and when the right people do it. Because the U.S. attorney said no at first, and then some people in the town knew some people in the town. They knew other attorneys, and they used the old friendship, good old boy, and then all of a sudden the government got involved. So it was a lot of backdoor crap that I didn't really like. And to me, it just showed the crookedness of our government. Moki, you're a good kitty. Meow. He's like, whatever, dude. Batman. Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. All right, we'll end it there.